If your organization is struggling right now, there's one financial mistake that I see being made over and over again. It's not cutting programs, it's not delaying projects, it's ignoring your numbers entirely. If that piqued your ears, keep watching. Now, I've helped dozens of nonprofits recover millions in lost receivables and navigate audits successfully. And here's what I've learned. The nonprofits that survive tough times, they aren't just lucky. As a matter of fact, most of them are not just lucky. They have a handle on their finances and they make intentional, informed decisions. Keyword informed, and that's very important to think about. So not just intentional, but also informed decisions. Now, when your organization is in crisis, it's very common to want to focus on, more money, more money, more money, because in your mind, there most times is like a cash flow shortage. And so all you could think about is how can we bring in more money? However, while that may be important, there's a huge caveat to the management piece. And so if you're just bringing money in and money is going right back out, that means there's a continuous leak. And so it's not really helpful to be bringing in all of this money. And I know it's tempting to focus on the fundraising, to focus on delivering on your programs, but if you ignore the numbers, you're almost canceling each other out. And so you're essentially still doing your organization a disservice. Now, when I mention ignoring your numbers, I'm talking about a lack of understanding of your cash flow, not having a clear picture of your revenue, the revenue mix, where it comes from, your expenses, your runway, right? When that happens, you bear the risk of making decisions based on assumptions and not facts. And if that assumption happens to be wrong, there are multiple snowball of consequences that can happen. And so we want to reduce the risk of making decisions on assumptions and increase your ability to make decisions based on facts. Now, when you're making decisions based off of assumptions, a few things can happen, right? So one, you bear the risk of overspending, right? You bear the risk of going over budget. And we're not just talking about as an organization, but also on individual grants or program budgets. You bear the risk of going over in different categories, right? You miss opportunities to reallocate resources or secure emergency funding. And maybe not even just emergency funding, but just funding opportunities in general, right? If you're ignoring the numbers when it comes time to jump at a grant application or grant opportunity, rather, if your stuff isn't in order, opportunity is gone, opportunity is missed, right? Because we know that at the very least, they're going to be asking you for your budget. They're going to be asking you for your financial statements. And we've now also started including a narrative, right? And so if you don't already have this stuff, if this stuff is not built into the DNA of how you run your organization, then you're not going to have this stuff ready at the drop of a hat, which means missed opportunities. Other things that tend to happen is that, the board begins to lose confidence, right, in your financial position, which sometimes lends itself to questioning whether leadership is actually doing its job. And so you bear the risk of jobs being in jeopardy, right? Because someone who is well versed in the numbers, who understands how to lead the organization and understand the organization's financial position, is someone you want leading. And so if the organization is in a weak financial position and you can't really speak to that, you're not sure what's going on, you don't really have a plan to steer it to the right course or on the right course, questions start to come up about whether or not you're fit, right? And we don't want that to happen. We want you to be armed with what you need to be able to lead your organization, especially from that financial standpoint. So we talked about the impact, right, of not knowing your numbers entirely. There's some simple quick hits that you can implement, and that, that consists of, getting very clear on your cash runway, thinking about the next 3, 6, 9 months. Many of you are not at the point where you even are projecting out 1, 2, 5 years because the climate has truly changed. And so making sure you understand your runway for the near future is going to be key, right? At least starting there. Build a simple dashboard, right? So when you're thinking about your financials and, let's just talk about month end, right? You should have a cadence of closing the books every month. And as part of that, your accounting team should be providing you with some data every month that speaks to how your organization is performing. And it doesn't have to be in the form of these multi-page financial statements. So having a financial dashboard, which speaks to maybe some quick hits, might be helpful. So maybe a budget to actual snapshot snapshot. Maybe it's quickly showing your ratio of restricted to unrestricted funds. Quick hit on how much money have we brought in, this past month, right? Are we in the negative? What's our cash position? What's our cash runway, for the next 3 to 6 months? And it should accompany the financial statements so that when you are looking at the financial statements, if you just want to know very quickly what's going on, that snapshot should give you, it's almost like a summation of what's going on. Now, you should be looking in detail at your financial reports, but the dashboard is a way for you to very simply and easily just get the high points of what's going on. And then if something looks off and looks odd, you have your financials to back that up, right? So if you see the cash runway, I don't know, let's just say you see the cash runway and you're like, this can't be right. Like, what's going on here with our cash position? We seem to have lost a lot of cash over the last month. Now you want to go to financials because what's going on? So we have an uptick in expenses, and if we did, what expenses? Did I expect that? Because if not, I need to dig deeper. Right? You see how the why, because you need to get to the root. And it's going to be very hard to get to the root if you don't have something to actually look at, right? If you're not looking at the reports, if you're not ruminating over them, if you're not digging into the numbers, because it's not enough to just look at it, right? You need to put on that thinking cap to say, does this make sense? With what I know about the organization, is this what I expected? Because if it's not, then you start to go down and down and down as to why. I remember the very first organization that I started working at, and I might have told this story multiple times, so forgive me if you've heard this already, but I always go back to this example because this was the very first time I worked at a nonprofit, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing happening as far as the management of the organization's finances. The executive director, one of the first things he said to me is that he hasn't gotten financial statements in months. He didn't remember the last time he got financial statements, and he said, and when I did, I couldn't trust the numbers. There is something wrong there, right? And that was one of the reasons why we were brought in. But I say that to say, like, there was a huge issue there. Had he not been moving in an urgent manner to get that solved, that organization might not be here today. And I want to be very clear, when I came in there, it still took a very long time to get it back on track. Replacing your accounting team or bringing in a consultant, it's not a Hail Mary, it's not a saving grace, because stuff still takes time. You have to think about it. A lot of times when the system is broken, that is years and years of things happening, not going right, going overlooked. And so when you bring someone in to clean up, it takes time to get that fixed. And it was supposed to be a 3-month contract, and I ended up being there, I want to say 2 years. That just tells you right there, like, they kept extending because we kept needing more time. And also, not to mention, different things were popping up while we were there. But I say all that to say, it's just an example of when you allow things to fester for so long and you go without addressing it, it only makes things worse. And so you want to make sure that you are not leaving things to linger. And so if you know you are having some issues with the management of your finances, you need to ring the alarm right now. I've recently been doing a series on LinkedIn where I'm going live and we're diving into organizations that have led with resilience, right? They've built their organizations to be resilient on purpose. And the key word there is on purpose, because I know sometimes being resilient gets a bad rep because it's like, I don't want to be strong, or I don't want to have to be resilient. But in these times, the organizations that are not resilient typically are not around. Right? They don't last. And so I've been talking about what it means to be resilient by design, so on purpose. And one of the things that has been a consistent thread in the organizations that we have discussed is that nonprofits don't survive tough times by guessing. They survive tough times by leading with clarity. You have to get out of the clouds. And sometimes it's very easy to get caught up in analysis paralysis. It's very easy to get caught up in overwhelm, where there's so many things that are going on that you have to attend to, and that you're just like, I don't want to do anything. But that doesn't work here. You have to lean into being the leader of your organization, stand tall, and whip things into shape. And so it's not enough to just turn your head and hope it away or wish it wasn't happening. You have to put action You gotta put action. If you are interested in giving your nonprofit's finances a complete overhaul, if you know your accounting function needs some serious help, then there are 2 ways that we can help you. The first way is our membership, the Accounting for Good membership, which gives you more tools, training, resources, and a community of peers to lean on as it relates to you then going back and taking that information to your organization to implement. Or we do have our monthly retainer services where we come in and serve as your accounting team and do the turning around for you. We get in, we drive the boat, we do all of the things, right? And so if you know that you do need some support, typically organizations fall into one of those categories where they just need some assistance, but they would like to implement or they would like us to do the implementing. And if either one of those sound like you, then you can hit the link in the description box to find out more information. Now, I hope this video was helpful. I hope that it gave you some insight as to why you need to focus on your nonprofit's numbers and why just turning a blind eye doesn't work in this instance. And if it's been helpful, please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't, and share it. We don't gatekeep around here. We share. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.